All right, so for this take-home portion of the test about Khufu's barrel-shaped cake, what a weird guy. You were supposed to create a 3D model of the cake in question, and it was supposed to be the shape of a cylinder. So the dimensions that were on the piece of paper is that it was supposed to measure 12 inches in diameter and then 12 inches high. But you didn't have to make it 12 inches by 12 inches, you just had to make it proportional. All that simply meant is that whatever your diameter was, that's exactly what the height is supposed to be. And, you know, we do want a circle up here. Some people struggle with making a circle. And then the cut piece that is right there, that thing should make a right angle, the little sector that's right there. Okay, so let's kind of go through each one of the pieces of that take-home test, looking at the model. So the first part was to find the volume of the cake. And some people mistakenly thought that the only thing that they were finding the volume of was the piece, but it wasn't. This was before it was even cut. It is what is the volume of the whole entire cylinder, which is just pi r squared times your height. So area of the base basically multiplied times the height. Okay, so most people got that one just fine. All right, and then the next question was kind of a conversion, and it was about covering this thing with some frosting, some really sickening, gross frosting, but frosting nevertheless. So what parts of this are we going to cover with frosting? Are we going to cover like 100% of it, even the part that's sitting down on the plate? Probably not. We're only going to cover the lateral surface here and just one base. The other base is going to be on the plate, right? It's going to be on the plate, so you don't put frosting on that part. That doesn't make sense, unless you want it to stick down to the plate. Anyway, okay. So what we have to do is don't use the total surface area formula. Instead, you're using the lateral surface area and then plus one base. And then we'll talk about some more details whenever we do the math in the next video, right? As far as like rounding and stuff goes. Okay, and then the next one you're supposed to, like it was gonna be cut. It's gonna cut to make this sector a right angle with a center. And like it's cut perpendicular to the base. So it'll cut through, and here's the slice that it would make. Right, so you had to draw yourself a net of this three-dimensional solid. So a net is just unfolding this into its two-dimensional pieces. So you can see that we have a sector here, 1/4 of a circle specifically, and then we have the identical one here. So whenever you draw that on your piece of paper, it's not a triangle because it has this curved edge that's right there. Okay, so attached to the radius on both of the sides here, we should just have ourselves a rectangle. Now let's talk about some dimensions of this. So going back to the sector here, this is the radius of the circle. If the diameter was supposed to be 12 inches, and this thing is supposed to be 6 by 6. So whenever we look at the rectangle, it should also be a 6, and this is the height of that thing, which was 12, so it's a 6 by 12. Okay, and then this one here is identical because it's on the other radius, right? So both of those rectangles are the same. And then one of the things that we did struggle with just a little bit is figuring out what shape the other part of it was. So it was, remember, it's part of the lateral surface area of a cylinder. And if you were to unwrap or rattle the lateral surface area of a cylinder and lay it flat, it just makes a rectangle. And this is just a portion of that. So this one is also just a rectangle. Its height, the height of this rectangle should just be the height of the cylinder, which was 12. And then as far as the length of this goes, if I were to lay this thing flat, it should be nice and straight. And it should be the same thing as the part of the circumference of that sector that's right there. So basically you find the circumference of the whole entire circle, like this thing, find the circumference of the whole circle. And then I'm just gonna take 1/4 of it, which I think turns out to be exactly 3 pi right there. Okay, all right, and then we are going to find the surface area for the next question, the surface area of just this piece. So the mistake that a majority of us made was, hey, I'll just find the surface area of this whole thing and then divide it by 4 to get this one. The problem with that is that whenever you divide this surface area by 4, what it will give you, it'll give you this little piece, fine. It'll give you the one that's down here on the bottom, also fine. And it'll give you this lateral surface right here. But what it won't get is that you just kind of generated, when you cut, you generated these two extra surfaces, these two rectangles. So the easier way to find the surface area of this whole slice was just to use the net that you used, or that you drew in the previous one, right? So it's a rectangle, an identical rectangle, two of these sectors here, which is a fourth of a circle, and then this lateral rectangle that was there. And that, again, the dimensions were 12 by 3 pi, okay? All right, and then the last one was a probability question. And we're saying that, hey, this is the piece of cake that he gave to whomever, and it's setting on the plate like this. So it's setting on one of the cut surfaces here. So this part here is not going to get the fly. It's sitting up against the plate, and so the fly can't land there. And we're supposing that it's going to land on, or wanting it to land on the frosting. So the frosting doesn't cover everything that's exposed. The frosting will have frosting on this part of the cake, the lateral surface, and only one of these sectors, because the other sector was sitting on the original base and never got covered with frosting. So as far as what's favorable, it's going to be one of these sectors, the lateral surface, that has frosting in it, and then it's not the whole entire surface area. It's not the whole surface area because remember, one of these rectangles that's right here is sitting on the plate and it's excluded. So it's almost the whole surface area, just take out one of the rectangles. Okay, so in the next video here, I'll go through the math step by step on how to get each one of those quantities, okay?